deceit. Telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Amen. So, good evening, everyone. I haven't been around in a while. It's March 31st, 2025. Just getting some business in order. There's so much going on, but I wanted to talk about a few things that the media really isn't picking up that I think is important to everyone's checkbooks, pocketbooks, savings, and etc. If you own assets in this country, you want to be notified of what's going on. So I just wanted to come on and share some stuff. So tonight, I wanted to go over the latest Fed meeting and what was asked, and really what wasn't asked. And what wasn't asked tells me more about the state of the financial media and the media in general. I wanted to get into all of that tonight. And again, if you are not subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, please be so kind and to do that now. And if you could please hit the like button so I can get this video out to more people. It would really help me out. I thank you for checking me out. My friends call me Bobby Bones, or you can just call me Bobby if you're not familiar with me. And I welcome you. Plus tonight, later on, I'm going to feature a quick brand new bonus show story at the end. So share the video, and of course, all comments are welcomed. Let's get into it. Well, earlier, the FOMC announced that it was leaving interest rates unchanged, which were it was a very highly anticipated announcement. So the Fed's fund rate is now 4.25% to 4.5%. The expectation on the street is for 2 additional rate cuts this year. What's everyone banking on is that on June and December for the Fed to cut rates. Now, my opinion was that this announcement was more on the dovish side. I think even more dovish than even Wall Street anticipated. One thing that they did announce, besides leaving rates unchanged, was that they were going to slow down the pace of their balance sheets, otherwise known as quantitative tightening. So instead of allowing $25 billion of treasuries to run off, meaning that the treasuries mature, that they don't roll over to buy other treasuries, they're just going to let the balance sheet decline over time. So instead of allowing $25 billion to run off, they're only going to allow $5 billion to run off, which means they're going to be rolling over more of that maturing debt into new debt. And that also amounts to essentially an ease on monetary policy. Now, I've been saying that, I'm parking my money in certain assets and things because I know that the Fed is going to do the wrong thing and they're going to bail out the economy. Not if it goes into stagflation and possibly a depression, but when it happens, because they are reducing the amount of liquidity through that quantitative tightening process, or QT. They are not slowing down mortgage-backed security program either. So let's get into the Q&A. Powell was asked about mortgage-backed securities, and Powell indicated that he really wanted to get them off the balance sheets. And to be honest with you, I would want it too. I mean, it's all junk assets. What I think it implies is that they might start buying treasuries again in order to continue to allow the mortgage-backed securities to run down. Of course, the Fed should continue to shrink the balance sheets because they are way too large. A little fun fact is that not only, between COVID and Biden and Trump and basically the past 8 years, did we rack up $15 trillion in debt? The Federal Reserve also added $7.5–8 trillion on their balance sheets, something nobody really talks about. So actually, the fiscal and monetary policies of this country are way more toxic than the media actually puts on. So I think this is the first step towards going back to quantitative easing, or QE, which is another form of inflation. I believe that is coming. And the reason why I think this was a really dovish meeting is because of the way Powell just dismissed the pickup of inflation by stating that it's no big deal, or even acknowledging that the inflation even exists. He doesn't even look at consumer sentiment or anything. He's just now, before it meant everything. When Biden was in office, oh man, this was, really important stuff. Now all of a sudden, it doesn't matter. Like I've been saying for a long time, the Fed should be hiking rates. As I've stated a few times before on this show, the Fed never really got rates into restrictive territory. And they've been way too loose the entire time. And this is why prices have not been able to come back down. But see, we have to understand something, and voters and people who own assets have to understand something. The Fed is not looking to bring down prices. All they're doing is to lower the amount of inflation added every month, every year, right? So prices, they don't want prices to come down. To them, it's like the worst thing in the world, right? I mean, God forbid if you go to the store to buy a pair of shoes, that they're $5 or $10 cheaper, right? Or if you go buy that house, that it's 5 or 10% cheaper, right? That would just be god awful. But one of the questions that wasn't asked during the entire Q&A meeting, which I really thought should have been asked, should have been on the price of gold. Now, nobody said to Powell, hey, what do you think about 3,000 gold? Because gold closed above $3,000, and it's the first time ever. And again, it's now, gold is trading tonight at market spot value of $3,158. Now, mind you, from $3,000 to $3,158, okay, it's had a $158 move in less than one full week, okay? That is a substantial run-up. And what that's telling you is, it's not that gold is going up, it's that your dollars are going down. So not only are you losing money in the Dow and the S&P, okay, but you're also losing your purchasing power in the Dow and the S&P. So you can't just count the nominal money that you're losing. You also have to figure out the monetary value that you're losing. But of course, none of the eggheads and experts, brought this up. And here's the thing. Gold is flashing a warning sign to the Fed that their monetary policies are far too loose. In the Q&A, one of the reporters brought up Alan Greenspan's old definition of price stability. And I want to get into this. So Greenspan said that price stability is where companies and workers don't even calculate changes into their plans because prices are going up so slowly that nobody really cares. And really, we've seen that prior to the Biden administration, right? Prices would go up, but they didn't go up to a point where you actually cared, right? Powell really dodged the question. He said that he liked the question, but he really didn't answer it, which I thought was pretty interesting. But the reason why I'm bringing up this question is because Alan Greenspan also understood the importance of gold and setting monetary policy around gold prices. Alan Greenspan stated that even though we are not officially on a gold standard, he said that he used the gold price to determine whether or not the Fed's policies were too loose or too tight, right? Gold is and always has been a beacon to central banks, whether or not a bank is too loose or too tight. Now, Greenspan, I'm going to tell you exactly what Greenspan said. Greenspan had said that if he allowed gold to get up to $400 an ounce, 400, then that means he's too loose. And if it goes below 300 an ounce, that means he's too tight. So obviously, when Greenspan made the statement, gold was in between $300 and $400 per ounce. Well, now gold has busted not only through 3,000, but has busted past $3,100. And I bet you by the end of the week, we might be up to $3,200 an ounce. So clearly, we are far too loose with monetary policies, and we need to tighten. Hey, Amy, how you doing, sweetheart? Hey, Julie, how you guys doing? And it shows you, just how much things have changed regarding the dollar. So, I went back to now this is something you're not going to see on CNBC, you're not going to see it on Bloomberg, you're not going to see it on Fox News, Fox Business, who used to be a great channel. You're not going to see this on CBS or NBC. So I went back to the charts over the past 100 years and priced in gold, okay? Now let's say if you took your money and, your grandparents or great-grandparents put all of their savings into the S&P, okay? Over the past 100 years, priced in gold, it's down 60%, okay? And so that is an enormous bear market, and it shows that the entire gain in the stock market, regardless where you're putting your money, is inflation. And it is due to easy monetary policies that are artificially raising prices, right? Also due to the destruction of the dollar and really the purchasing power of the dollar. Because, I was talking to my aunt the other night, and I was explaining to her, because she's worried about Social Security, because apparently now if, let's say she don't get her check, right? Because now people have to either go down to the office or call and verify who they are, which they've already verified who they are, but I guess we have to do it again, right? So let's say they don't give her check. Well, according to Elon Musk, she's a fraudster, right? Because if you complain, you didn't get your check, you're the fraudster. Well, I call bullshit on that, right? My aunt was suckered into that stupid program, and she's earned that money. But why am I bringing up this point? I'm bringing it up because, her check no longer covers, it doesn't pay the butcher no more, right? And I sit there and I subsidize her and my mother's finances, right? I got to help them. I have to dig in my pocket as a good son and nephew and help them, which I believe more children should be doing, right? Especially if your kids have means and have, and have made it and are doing good, right? You should help your parents, right? If they raised you and they took care of you, right? You should now be stepping up to take care of them versus the government. But I digress from that. But I was explaining to her that it's not the money that you get with the check that matters, right? It's not the currency. It's not the paper, right? You don't care about the paper. What you care about is what you can buy with the paper. And that's been destroyed, right? So, although her nominal check has gone up over the past, let's call it 10 years that she's been on Social Security, right? What she can buy with that check has gone dramatically down, right? So, they're giving her more money, technically, right? More paper, right? But the paper doesn't cover the bills. And so that's why the Federal Reserve and really all the central banks, they look to gold to determine if they're too tight or they're too loose. Alan Greenspan understood this when he was Fed chairman, and so did every other one before him. For some reason, this nudnik, Powell, he doesn't understand that, right? And apparently the whole financial media doesn't understand this. And this is why they're destroying the dollar. If you don't understand basic economics, right, don't forget, these are supposed to be the smartest people in banking, in finance, right? These are supposed to be the brilliant people. And they've literally have gotten every single monetary issue wrong, okay, over the past few decades. Okay, literally everything they've done has been wrong. And it really shows how ignorant some of these so-called financial reporters are today, including Powell, who clearly is continuing to destroy the dollar. Only he's destroying it in an orderly fashion. So another good question would have been to ask Powell if he's concerned. Now check this out. The fact that foreign central banks, just like I predicted, I've been predicting this like since I started this show. Foreign central banks are now dumping treasuries, right? And so the question should have been, aren't you concerned, Chairman Powell, that foreign countries and central banks are dumping the dollar, the money that you're printing, or the currency that you're printing, that will give you 4% interest to buy gold and store gold that gives no interest. So think about that. These banks are willing to forego collecting 4% interest to hold gold. Why is that? Because the dollar is being destroyed faster than the 4%. They understand if they hold a 2-year treasury or a 10-year treasury, right? They understand that they're never going to get that money back. They're going to lose money holding that paper. Literally, holding paper, it's getting destroyed. So they're dumping Federal Reserve notes, dollars, all of these central banks around the world for your notes instead for gold. And again, the media is clueless on any of this, and apparently so is Powell. And so it's just kind of interesting that central banks are foregoing the 4% to hold gold in a vault. And that tells you a lot. And what it tells you is that your monetary policies are far too loose and destructive to your paper. And are you concerned about that, Mr. Powell? Are you concerned that the markets are repudiating your policies? I mean, look at the markets. They're getting devastated. The markets are telling you that interest rates are too low and that inflation is too high, and nobody is asking Powell or what his opinion is on that. Yeah, I mean, Amy, that's true. Again, like, you know, they verify, like I helped my goddaughter back in September, before Trump was even elected. I helped her get a Social Security card in New York. I did it from here. And I talked her through it. She got an appointment. She had to show ID, right? This is all complete nonsense. And what I think they're trying to do, I think what they're trying to do is kick people off of Social Security like, look, you know, you didn't sign up. You're obviously a fake person. People have disabilities. People are elderly. Like my aunt, you know, she's got one kidney left, right? She can't get around. How is she going to get over there? You know, and then when you call Social Security, you'd rather go to hell. You'd rather go to hell than to call Social Security. It is a nightmare. And then, of course, what Musk did, which is really cute, he fires all these people in Social Security who pick up the phone and, you know, take calls. He did that to jam people up. Look, by hook or crook, right? He doesn't care, right? They don't care about kicking grandma off the cliff. And it's funny because, you know, when Democrats used to have that ad, there was an ad, I believe it was in the 80s or 90s, I forget. And they would push, I think it was a Medicare commercial, a Social Security commercial, and they would literally push grandma off the cliff in the commercial, saying, don't vote for Republicans because they're going to push you off the cliff. Well, I got to say, they're pushing grandma off the cliff. They're pushing my mother and aunt off the cliff. They're going to push your mother off the cliff, or maybe you off the cliff. I mean, you know, again, we could talk about, and again, I am all for restructuring these organizations, restructuring Social Security, restructuring Medicare, you know, getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. Those are all legitimate things to fix. But what you don't do is, you don't arbitrarily kick people off, right? Because people are uninformed, right? What if somebody doesn't watch the news and now all of a sudden their check don't come Hey, why did I get my check? Oh, because you didn't sign up. Sign up for what? For this arbitrary thing we just came up with. It's complete bullshit. So, again, this is not how you run government. This is complete. Now, again, it's completely ridiculous. But anyway, this is the real truth. So, we have the markets saying that the Fed is too loose and that they need to cut rates. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to give you a different perspective, an Austrian economics perspective that you don't very often hear, because our media and government are always giving you the Keynesian perspective. So there's a company called Klarna, which is the buy here, pay here later company that is now teaming up with DoorDash so that customers can order fast food and pay for it later. Just what America needs, right? To make payments on fucking fast food. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how sick our economy is, then I don't know what does, right? And if you don't know what DoorDash does, DoorDash is a food delivery app. It's like Uber Eats. And they facilitate a customer to be able to buy fast food. Basically, they team up with local eateries and deliver food right to your door. This came really, really helpful during COVID. I remember I used to order all sorts of stuff to my house. They were great for like water or whatever else. But because I have a company, I also was able to order toilet paper and other things that the public weren't able to really get at the store, if you remember when the shortages happened. But it is a fairly okay service. I've had DoorDashers, steal my food. I've had them literally go to the wrong house, dump a complete seafood platter in my neighbor's brand new driveway in the middle of the summertime, which was nice. It was like 105 out. And of course you always get the Nudnik and Nimrod who will, put the drinks right behind the fucking door, right? Like, you're not going to open up the door, right? It's just, I think they do that to like goat you or something. But, because I don't believe people are really that stupid that they don't understand that when you put a drink right behind the door, you're going to knock it over. I think they do it on purpose. But anyway, I digress. So what the merger will do is give customers the option to pay for their food later in installments if they do not have the money at the time. Like we've all been needing this for the longest time, to make monthly installments on your fast food purchases. Look, if you cannot afford fast food and you're needing to make monthly installments to pay for your fast food, then you have really bad financial issues. And I do not, make fun of those people. Let me tell you something. I can remember having to borrow $20 for a pizza, right? I mean, and to put gas in my car starting out. So like, I understand what that's about, and everybody falls on hard times, so I'm not talking about those people, but I'm talking about like, it's just like we are in this world where like we just like to rack up a lot of credit and destroy our future purchasing power to these bank pimps. And I really try to tell people, if you're going to take out debt, take out positive debt. And if you don't know what positive debt is basically debt that you take for like a business or something that can make you more money, right? So like I was blown away back about 15 years ago when I heard people were starting to make payments like on their mattresses, because I thought, how stupid is that? I mean, if you stop making the payments, they're not going to come and repo your bed, right? But I was like, wow, think about how expensive a mattress has gotten that people make payments on that stuff and they think it's normal. It's like that now, it's like perfectly normal, And this signifies two things. One is that more people will take out more unproductive debt. And two, it will encourage people to spend far more than they would have if they were paying with cash, basically paying as they go. This is just another signal just how weak this economy is. Remember, strong economies create savings and produce stuff. Weak economies go into debt and consume more than they're able to produce. And that's been the story of our economy, for a very long time. I mean, I can remember watching my older cousins, the big thing was oh, let's charge it, and she would go charging stuff. And back then her boyfriend, well, now her husband's name is Glenn, and would say, oh, look, honey, like it was some achievement, like she did some great act by using her plastic and, buying all this stuff that, it was going to be probably in the garbage within the next year or 18 months, right? But there was something proud about going out and charging all this money. And basically, they've convinced an entire society of people to go into debt, right? And to not save their money, right? And, to not get themselves out of debt, And so, I try to tell people, please avoid, going into debt. Take out only the most necessary debt possible and really think about it before you do it. Don't just look at the payment. A lot of people make the mistake of only looking at the payment, right? Like when they buy a car, they're like, oh, I could afford $500, $600, or $700 a month, right? But they don't look at the overall cost, right? What's it going to cost to insure it? What's it going to cost to maintain it? How much interest am I paying on a depreciated vehicle, right? They're not looking at that stuff, okay? And if you're a young person thinking about buying a home, right? Learn how to negotiate, right? Just because somebody asks for something, don't mean you should give it to them, right? Be smarter. And I've said this a couple of times, one of the most discouraging things I see in real estate, especially, are people bidding up prices. I mean, how stupid is that? Look, hey, if they want a certain number, don't go above that number. I don't care how bad you want it. Don't go for the FOMO. FOMO is fear of missing out, right? Sometimes, and you're going to see this, especially in real estate, it's better to miss out and rather than lose in the long run, right? Because if you look at 2022, right, and where we are now, right? Right now, you're underwater. All those people that bought in 22 and they're like, oh, look, I'm just going to bid up prices, right? They're in the losing end, right? Because they're not only losing nominal price on their home in a lot of these hot markets, but when you also add in the destruction of the dollar, they're losing far more of that asset, right? Because a lot of people don't understand this. Homes actually depreciate value. The real thing that appreciates is the land, right? A lot of people think it's the house, but actually the house depreciates. It don't appreciate. It depreciates. And why is that? Things get old. Got to fix things, right? When a home becomes a certain age, it becomes a complete teardown, right? Or a complete remodel, right? So, look, we've lived in a pretty strange time to watch inflation outpace the way that it did housing. But I feel like I know a lot of that's going to unwind. But I just wanted to bring up that story about, with, like now you could, charge fast food, as if, we need more debt. And then, look, my final story, and this is a good one, is Hunter Biden. So this is a story I wanted to also say last week I didn't get to, and I appreciate everybody for hanging in there. So, Hunter Biden basically asked the judge a couple of weeks ago to, throw out the laptop from hell case. And he gave a sob story. He says, I don't have any money, this case is, it's going to put me in bankruptcy, ba, 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 ba. Well, guess what? The judge dismissed the case. So, what happens? Fast forward literally a couple of days after the case, Hunter Biden is in South Africa, okay, in one of the most expensive, ritziest hotels they have there, right? Now, he's telling the judge one day, hey, I'm destitute, please dismiss this case, I can't afford it, all this. And then the next week, he was hobnobbing in South Africa. Well, Trump got wind of this. Somebody had said to Trump, hey, do you know that Hunter is getting all this Secret Service security and he's in South Africa? And Trump says, whoa, really? Well, guess what? And I support Trump for this. Trump turned around and took away Hunter's security. Apparently, check this out. Hunter had 17 Secret Service agents watching him and another 13 agents for his wife. I mean, what does this guy have, a whole football team to protect him? I mean, it's completely ridiculous. And, think about it. Like, our tax dollars paid for those people to go all the way over there. They all have cars. You got to feed them. You got to put them all up in hotels. We're paying millions of dollars to protect this degenerate who's hobnobbing in one of the most wealthiest places in Africa. Meanwhile, he's telling the judge, the week before, hey, I got no money. Hey, things are tough. And again, it's this type of hypocrisy that I just can't stand. Yeah, Amy, I agree with you. And I think it's complete BS that the judge threw the case out, because of the poverty excuse. It wasn't because, he was innocent. The judge threw it out because of this ridiculous poverty story that he told. And then the next week, he's hobnobbing in South Africa. So I thought that was a really explosive story. I have to be honest, I did see one other news outlet talk about it, but in all fairness, I would have had that story first had I gone on when I wanted to last week, but I couldn't. So I held back on that story to share it here. But I wanted to say I appreciate everyone for checking out Brew Media. Look, this is a brand new channel and I'm learning, okay? And I want to explore economics and many of the day-to-day news and events. So look, if you know somebody, if you could, please kindly subscribe. Hit the subscribe button for me, and please also hit the like button so YouTube will put my video in front of more people. That will be help me to be able to continue to bring you the very best information and stories. My mission is to bring you the latest and best information on every episode. And I'm just one guy, but I feel that I have a lot to offer everyone, and I would really like to share my knowledge. I want you to share your knowledge with me and perspective with each other. Again, my friends know me as Bobby Bones. You can call me Bobby anytime. And I hope everyone really has a great evening and a great day. And I thank you so kindly. And God bless. Have a great night. Thank you.